Welcome back to Outriders. In this video we are going to be doing a review / impression sort of thing on the demo, and I'm doing this video basically to compile a big list of the positives, the negatives, the in-betweens, literally everything. So if you guys have any feedback of your own, leave it in the comments because I will be forwarding this video to the developers. Just is basically to give feedback on what needs improving, what's really good, and stuff like that. So I'm going to start off with the gameplay and the fact that I think it's amazing. There's a little bit of cover use if you want it, although 2 of the 4 classes available, you're not going to use cover because they are for close range. Pyromancer, like the Devastator and the Trickster are the ones for close range. You're not really going to use cover, especially with the Trickster. You have an ability to teleport behind enemies, so cover is going to be pointless. With the Pyromancer, you'd possibly use it a little bit more because it's a mid-range sort of class. And then with the Technomancer, it's a long-range support class with the best healing abilities in the game, so you're going to want to use a little bit more cover than the other classes. The colour palette for this game, the graphics and stuff, it feels very Remnant from the Ashes. I've noticed, like, in the camp, it seems a little bit similar to Anthem and Fort Tarsis. Like, it's got that, like, brown sort of murky colour palette to it. It can seem a little bit washed out in certain areas, but I don't think it's too bad. The different skills and stuff available in the game, like moving back onto the actual gameplay, I thought I'd bring up the graphics and the colour palette and stuff. But moving back onto the skills, you have several different skills available. There's 8 for each class. You're only allowed to use 4 of the 8 in the demo, unlocking your final one at level 6. I've run through this game now with 2 of the 4 characters. I will be doing the other 2. And they feel very good, although there's quite a lot of lag. We'll get into the servers and stuff as we progress with the video. But for the Devastator, you have the ability to fortify yourself so that you have, I think it's 65% like reduced damage incoming from enemies. You have Gravity Leap, which allows you to fly back up in the air and then bombard yourself, like slam yourself onto the ground and deal heavy damage to the enemies. With the Trickster, you have this trap. It's kind of like a dome, and anything inside the dome, everything like in terms of time is all slowed down. You also have Temporal Slice, which is like a knife, and you slash the enemies with it, and after a couple of seconds it's going to deal a decent amount of damage. If you do get the killing blow with the Temporal Slice, they kind of disintegrate. And then with you actually have a bullet skill. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but basically for your magazine, you have these, like, I think they're anomaly infused bullets, and they deal a lot more damage than your standard bullets. So that's pretty cool. And then you obviously have the teleport one that I spoke about. You teleport behind an enemy that you're aiming at, and you also get a shield boost from that. When you kill enemies, you get shield with the Trickster. There's a lot of depth to it with the gear and everything as well, and overall I think it's really good with the gameplay. And then moving on, I do feel the skills need polishing. For an example, the Devastator, I got stuck in the air quite a lot with Gravity Leap. Aiming the skills in general can be a little bit clunky. Although you have to bear in mind with this isn't like final thoughts on it. This is a demo. This is literally just a small portion of the game for players to get in, see how they feel, for them to optimize stuff and polish it up and everything. It's literally just a demo. So we have to wait until the full game to be fully critical on everything. Although there was quite a lot of lag with the Trickster. A couple of times on my live stream I got completely stuck, wasn't able to open menus, wasn't able to move. But I'm not sure if that is like a bug within the game or if it's a server issue, because this game has had, like the demo has had a lot of server problems. One thing I would like to see is we need to be told what loot we actually receive from mission givers after a quest replay. So the very first time, I can't remember, I think it's Payback is the name of the quest that I'm talking about. But the first time you do it, you go back to the quest giver and you get an option, like a prompt that pops up on the screen. You get to pick out of one, like you get to pick one of 3 different bits of loot as a mission reward. If you replay that quest, you do get awarded a piece of loot, but it doesn't pop up on your screen or anything like that. It just goes into your inventory. We tested that on the first live stream for the game. I would like to, at least in the bottom right corner, see that you've got the bit of loot. Although when you go into your inventory, if you look at the top right, there's like a yellow triangle in the corner that says this is new loot. So it would I'd like a little bit more of a notification to say you've received loot for replaying this quest. I would like to see, I'm not sure if it's going to be put into the full game, but I would personally like to see loot sharing. especially because of another point I'll get into further into the video regarding weapons and their mods and stuff. But moving on to motion blur and screen shake, I'm pretty sure they're fixing this in the full game. There will be options to reduce the amount of motion blur there is. They said they might see if anything is feasible for the demo, but right now the motion blur, the screen shake, it's pretty bad. A lot of people are complaining about it, and the cutscenes, for example, even on next gen consoles, they're capped to 30 FPS, although they will be unlocked for the full game. But motion blur and screen shake, if they plan on doing any hotfixes for the demo, I would say this is definitely up there with stuff that needs to be addressed within the demo, because the motion blur is really, really bad in certain areas, and during the cutscenes the screen shake can be horrible. As I've stated a few times, I've done a couple of live streams for this game, played several hours, I think 5 or 6 hours or something, managed to max out both Devastator and Trickster. A lot of players in my chat have been saying that matchmaking is not working even with crossplay on. You have to bear in mind crossplay is a beta feature. The feature hasn't been fully implemented into the demo, but a lot of people are saying that matchmaking isn't working at all. So again, not sure if that's a server issue, but that is something that I believe needs fixing, or at least looking into, especially before the full game releases on April 1st. Game crashes in the first live stream we did were happening every now and then. Second live stream, they started happening a lot more often. Sometimes simply going into your inventory would cause a full-on game crash, and you're being dashboarded on Xbox, literally just sent back to your home screen. As I've said, a lot of server issues, screen freezing, I've heard people are having screen tearing. There are a lot of issues, but moving on, and I've only said that again because I'm going through a list of notes I've written down for this. There are really, really long loading times, even on the next generation consoles. I've heard PS5 is pretty quick with the loading times, but I play on the Series X, and I'm loading into the game. This is optimized for the Series S and X for Xbox. I'm loading into the game at exactly the same time as people that are on the Xbox One X. So even next gen is not loading faster than old gen for the Xbox side of things, although I've heard for PlayStation it seems to be pretty good. As I've said, cutscenes are limited to 30 FPS even on next gen, although it's been stated it's going to be changed in the full game. The quick restocks on the vendors is amazing. Item of the day sort of thing that you would see in Borderlands. That happens, I believe, is every 45 minutes, maybe every hour. All the other stuff seems to be restocking every 10-15 minutes or something. It's crazy quick and it's amazing because you're not having to wait 5 or 6 days or a week for the loot to change at the vendors. The fast travel flags in this game, as you're progressing through, you'll notice these little flags. They're like a blue sort of hologram. You have to place a flag down. That's your fast travel flag. Really liking that system because it's forcing you to actually move around the game world. You're not literally just opening up a map and fast traveling. I really do like that feature in this game. It seems, I wouldn't say it's exactly innovative. It's not something brand new to the genre of looter shooters, but it definitely feels different to other looter shooters. It doesn't have exactly the same mechanics. So I think that's a very, very good implementation of having the little flags there, because you actually have to go and interact with them. Then you can open up fast traveling. Using the different skills was a lot of fun, and the mods make the skills even more powerful. I think I've got something for Temporal Slice on the Trickster, which decreases the cooldown of the skill by 20%. I have things that increase the range of Earthquake for Devastator. Also, with the Devastator, Gravity Leap and Earthquake, I can inflict bleed on enemies when I use the skills. They are literally just tier 1 mods as well. The mods in the game go up to tier 3. Although we won't be able to experience that stuff. I'm not sure if legendaries do have that, but in terms of just your normal gear, we're not going to see tier 3 stuff until the full release. One thing I really like in this game as well, because of the fast-paced gameplay, is that weapons have minimal recoil. They can be a little bit tough, the sensitivity doesn't feel as smooth as it possibly could be. Although it's not bad, I'm not saying the sensitivity's bad, but I really like that the weapons have minimal recoil because it helps out so much when you're run and gun, you're up close, enemies are really close to you, or even if you're sitting right at the back with an assault rifle, the guns don't move too much, which I think is actually quite good. bad. Some of the cutscenes in this game are totally unnecessary in my opinion. They definitely do not need to be in the game. For an example, if you're going to do the side quest Terra Infirma, you literally have a cutscene for jumping over a bridge. Then it goes into a loading screen to load into that side quest. That little cutscene of jumping over the bridge, or there, I think it's the payback side quest, you have a cutscene for opening a door. They don't need to be in the game in my opinion. It definitely makes it a little bit more irritating because you have the cutscenes, then you have all these loading screens and the long loading screens and stuff. It kind of feels like Anthem on that front. In the cutscenes, you have something that's very good. Your character actually talks. You have different dialogue options. I know a lot of games do it, but there are some games out there that don't, that I feel should. And it feels good to have the different options, your character speaking and stuff. It makes the story more immersive. I'm not personally following the story, but from what I've seen in the cutscenes, having that option to talk is pretty good. And you can ask random questions and find out more about the game. Another thing I really like is with the classes, for an example, the Devastator, it doesn't force you, like you're supposed to be, I say you're supposed to be, the class sort of archetype is a close range tank. The game doesn't force you into playing as a tank necessarily. You can focus on firepower, so you can use your guns, you can focus on anomaly power for your skills, or you can just focus, like that's in terms of the weapons. Then with the gear, you can focus on health, you can get more anomaly power, you can get firepower, you can get several different things, so you can build up into something really, really tanky. You can focus on something that's an absolute, like, monster at destroying enemies, like basically like a DPS sort of class. You can work with your skills, with your anomaly power. There are several different ways you can play, even as a Devastator, which is more of a tank build. Another thing is, even playing as the Devastator, weapons can drop with life leech, so when you shoot enemies you get health regen. I really, really like that they don't force you into, oh, you have to go with health. You can't deal much weapon damage because you need to focus on your armor and stuff. I like that you don't get forced into that specific playstyle. Your character does feel pretty powerful when you get the right gear. Builds are going to have a lot of depth to them in this game. And when I say they feel quite powerful, you need to make sure that you have the right sort of stuff on, like the right gear and weapons on your build. I was farming for legendaries, doing the Terra Infirma side quest, and I felt really, really squishy, really weak. I didn't manage to take down the boss for probably 20 minutes or something. I just kept wiping. And then as soon as I started getting a couple more drops and I started focusing on the mods, the stats and stuff, I started feeling a lot more tanky. I was able to take down the boss and get the loot from the boss and stuff. Because you don't just focus on your armor rating. If you go into your inventory, you see the green arrow, that's not necessarily better. There are some items that have been dropping with mods for skills that aren't available in the demo. So I've instantly, even if they have a really high armor rating, I've gone, nope, not going on my builds because, for an example, I could get one for Impale on the Devastator. That's not available in the demo, so that's going to be completely useless. It's going to have absolutely no use. So I might lose 30 armor rating from the piece of gear, but I could get a mod for Earthquake that increases its range by 60%. So even though I'm losing that little bit of armor, my skills are more useful. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing with the gear and stuff in this game. But so far it does make you feel like your character is powerful once you start getting those right gear pieces on your character for your build. Another thing that's really good with this game, once you've completed the prologue, you've got into the actual game, you've gone to the camp, you set up co-op and matchmaking and stuff, you don't ever have to do the prologue again. When you start a new character, you can skip the prologue straight away. I really like that. And another thing is, even though there are only 4 character classes in the game, the developers have given us 6 character slots. So if you want a DPS Devastator class, and you also want a really tanky health sort of skill Devastator, you can have both of them. Because you have 6 character slots and there's only 4 character classes. Another problem I noticed was sometimes when you're sprinting, it'll randomly force you to stop sprinting. Although it does let you instantly start sprinting again. So that's not really a big problem. Although it might not even be a problem at all. But I just noticed that a lot of the time when I'm sprinting in the game, it just randomly stops me from sprinting. As I said, I play on the Series X. Pete and Lewis, my friends that I've been live streaming the game with, they are playing on the Xbox One X, and they've said that loading into the inventory, it can be a little bit sluggish on the old generation consoles. As I mentioned a little bit earlier on, the mods, I really like how you can apply status effects to your skills. So Earthquake and Gravity Leap for me eventually started inflicting bleed on the enemies. Another thing you'll learn about when you're playing this game is interruption, and it's a very important part of this game. When you're fighting enemies, like certain enemies, you'll see this orange bar sort of thing. I think it's orange. It starts filling up above their head. That's them getting ready to use one of them like major skills. If you use one of your skills that has interrupt on it, you can knock them out of that. It's kind of like a little knockback sort of feature, and it stops them using that skill. I really like that because it adds an extra factor of timing into the game. You're not always rushing and just spamming stuff. You actually have to be a little bit more strategic. In one of the missions, you actually get told about the resistance, the interruption and stuff, because the more, like, say for an example, a captain, the more you use your skills on them, the more they're able to resist. So eventually your skills are going to do nothing against them. So you have to hit them with your guns as well to bring the resistance back down. And that's going to help you take on the enemies. When you do the mission, you'll know what I'm talking about because it pops up with the tooltips to help you out. And it explains everything about the resistances. I really like that feature because you're not just in there spamming all the buttons. It's not a button bashing sort of game. You have to time your skill use. You can't spam it on the captains because they're just going to resist it and it won't do anything to them. When you're playing in a group, I really like the fact that you're able to self-revive. I'm pretty sure you're only allowed to use it once and then you have to be revived by another group member. But you have that option to be using the Devastator right in the thick of the action. Go down, you can get yourself back up and you can use your skills and stuff against the enemies. And it helps out with your team. If you're far away from the action, you can get yourself back up. It doesn't cause a problem. But then, obviously, if you've just used self-res, I'd get closer to your team in case you go down again. I wouldn't try and rush it. And another thing, even when using the Devastator and the Trickster, which are for up close and personal, not using too much cover, if you are really low on health, I do recommend getting behind a little bit of cover just so that you can regen, because there is a little bit of automatic regeneration on your health. I think it goes up to like a third of your HP or something like that. But just pay attention because you'll have a little like slice in your health bar that shows how much you can automatically regen, so you're not having to use like life leech and things like that. It comes in very handy, especially if you're a tank or if you're close up and you're having to like rush around. There's lots of enemies swarming you sort of thing. It can get very, very... I'm trying to think of a word for it. It gets very risky, especially playing Devastator and Trickster. Another thing is the loot crates that you get at the end of missions. I was like led to believe, from what I've heard, that you're able to open them again. It doesn't seem as though you're able to. I would like to see that changed or a bit of explanation behind it. I would like to know if they're on a timer, if they'd ever be put on a timer or anything like that. Although I have heard from videos, not sure if it's accurate, but apparently, at least in the demo, if you go back to the lobby where you can change your character and invite your friends and stuff, if you select the point of the story that you want to go back to, that will reset the crate for that main mission. Not sure if you can do it for side quests and stuff. And then, as I said towards the beginning of the video, with the Trickster, I kept getting stuck in place like quite a lot. I was unable to move at all, but that was only with Trickster. Devastator, it was more getting stuck in the air using Gravity Leap. And then another thing, and this is the reason I said I would like to see loot sharing, is because I keep having weapons drop that have status effects on them that aren't really for my class. For an example, I've seen Technomancers have like weapons that inflict burn drop. I've also had a weapon, I think it was an LMG for my Devastator, that inflicts ash. I think that weapon should pretty much just be given to a Pyromancer. They deal with burn, fire, ash, all that sort of stuff. I don't think it's really going to help a Devastator. I mean, it is quite cool, but if I'm Devastator, I'm playing with Pyromancer and I get a weapon that deals ash status effect, I think there are stuff in the class tree for the Pyromancer that can increase the duration of those status effects. And I don't think the Devastator can, although I'm not 100% sure. But I would really like to see the loot sharing feature, because I'm not really going to use a weapon unless I absolutely have to that will deal burn to enemies using the Devastator. And for an example, if you're the Technomancer, your long range support, your class is built like pretty much around snipers. So getting an SMG that's got burn damage I would like to give that to a pyromancer. So that's pretty much the end of it. I would just like to say in general, I feel that server stability needs to be improved massively, because in the second stream we did, there was a hell of a lot of lag if you wasn't the host of the game. The host seemed to be okay, but the other players in the group were just lagging, teleporting, rubber banding, everything. It was so bad on our second playthrough. I think it might be because there are a lot more people playing, or I don't know exactly, but there were a lot more problems on the second playthrough compared to what there was on the first. So server stability, optimization in a few areas, and I just want the full game to hurry up and release. I'm going to be pre-ordering a couple of days before it's released. Definitely going to be getting into this game heavily. There will be a lot of live streams and videos and stuff for it. I don't like giving ratings, but I'm going to give this demo an 8 out of 10. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, had a lot of laughs, especially the first stream and seeing these skills and stuff being used for the very first time. A lot of excitement, and I love looter shooters. This game's got a full-on end game and everything. So April 1st release date needs to hurry up. But that's going to do it for this video. Remember to leave all your thoughts and stuff in the comments. I'll be forwarding this to the devs. That is going to do it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.